Okay, and welcome to That Reminds Me of.
That reminds me of the MIFF 68.5 special edition episode on what film are we talking about tonight, Doc? What have we seen?
We're talking about Black Bear by Lawrence Levine, or Larry Levine, he sometimes goes by, I think.
Yes, sometimes he likes the three-parter too. He likes to be Lawrence Michael Levine as well.
Yes.
We have all the options. There is so much to dig into in this film. For one, it surprised me about 3 times. It just blew my mind with the twists and turns that it takes. And at first I was not convinced, and then I was very convinced. But I'd love to hear what you think, just broadly, before we get into a synopsis.
It sounds like we watched the same film, because I was not convinced, very convinced, half convinced, fully convinced, at different stages. But the thing it did for me was it had my interest all through. So
I agree.
That's saying something.
I actually had I went from feeling like I was, it was a little gross, like I was watching something that was overly dramatic and curious and just like, what is this? And then I was suddenly so involved in everything that was happening, and we can get into that I was having almost like an uncomfortable physical reaction to it. And then it switched again and I was laughing. It's such a strange film. There's so many things going on. Like I was actually out loud laughing, and my wife was probably wondering what was going on in the other room.
That could be the Aubrey Plaza effect, which we can get onto a bit later.
Yeah.
Hey, before we go synopsis, can I just call out one thing, that I've been picturing this film with the cover artwork or the poster or whatever you'd call it, and really looking forward to seeing Kit Harington in a film. I'm thinking, I haven't seen him for a while, since Game of Thrones. I really enjoy watching that actor.
That's hilarious. I had exactly the same expectation coming into this film. I was telling Edith, Jon Snow's in this next film. Could be good. And she's like, Jon Snow? Yeah, I don't know about him. I'm like, yeah, well, but he's pretty well known. It's probably going to be all right. It's not Jon Snow, is it?
Wow. Like, I think there should be, like, Jon Snow should go to court for misleading and deceptive conduct, or, plagiarism of his face or something.
The incredible thing is that I have seen this actor who is not Jon Snow. What's his name? Christopher Abbott. I've seen him in another film recently. Really enjoyed his performance. And as soon as I saw him in this, I was like, oh, it's that guy. And now when I look at the poster, I can see it's him. But before I started watching the film, I was certain it was Jon Snow, Kit Harington. Crazy.
I was absolutely certain it was just him. But I've seen him in other things as well. He was in that series, The Sinner, that I mentioned a few episodes back. He was in the first series.
Oh, is he?
Of The Sinner.
Yep.
And I loved him. He was wonderful. So
he's great. I
was almost happier too, because I since watching that, I've really had an urge to see him in something again.
I think he's better, maybe. Than Kit
Maybe.
Harington.
Sorry, Kit.
Sorry,
love
Kit.
you, man.
Yeah. But yeah, Christopher Abbott's killing it. Anyway, I saw him in that film that I talked about a couple of weeks ago, It Comes at Night, the one where the it never came.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was in that, and he was good.
That was Christopher Abbott.
He was in that, yeah.
Ah, wow.
So there you go. Joel Edgerton and him. The two of them were like sort of... Is that my end? Is that creepy
sounded
child
like something coming
in the background? That's at my end. Great.
That's exactly how you describe that film. All this sort of those weird.
Yeah. If you have
sounds.
creepy children, it's probably coming from my end. Anyway, what do you do?
There was a bit of that in this one with the rustling trees.
Yes, there was
black bears in the night.
The ever-present threat of the black bear. Okay, I think we need to tell people what this film's about, because we've just laid all sorts of cryptic clues. So
yeah, apologies, audience.
Yeah, whose turn is it? Mine or yours?
I think it might be yours. You can pass it back if you want, but
I think I might have to. But because this is going to be a hard film to do a synopsis for, it has so many twists and turns and little, strange story elements that we have to get right, or else people will be lost. But I will do my best. So the film starts with what looks like a love triangle developing, where a director played by, what is her name? Aubrey Plaza, arrives, and she arrives in a little country shack, and she is greeted by a man who we were just talking about, who plays the character Gabe, and they're having this great little moments right off the bat where they're having, sort of fun back and forth. And then you discover that he's got a girlfriend who's pregnant living in this house that this whole film will take place in. And so straight away there's tension right from the outset. And it turns into this very melodramatic kind of three-way tension thing where, there's questions about feminism and masculinity and traditional values and religion and the arts and living with a creative partner and all this stuff, and they're kind of arguing right off the get-go, and just everything's so tense and dramatic,
awkward,
and very, very awkward. At first I was we'll get into it, but I was very uncertain about the film we were watching. And then before you know it, that part of the film concludes itself and a new chapter begins. And we're watching the whole thing again, except this time it's a film set and all of the characters have switched. Gabe is now the director, and the two women are now the two leads in this film. And it's like you're watching what you just saw being filmed, and the behind the scenes of the set. And then that story takes its own awkward twists and turns, and the character and the same love triangle plays out in a totally different way. It's a bit of it kind of messes with your head, this film.
Yeah, well, good synopsis, I think. Like that was hard to follow, but that's because the film is hard to follow. I think it accurately depicted the whole thing.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. It's a tough one.
Yeah, 2 acts where the same story is just repeated, getting increasingly meta.
Yes, absolutely. And so, okay, getting into what I was alluding to, the first act of the film, I kind of hated. I was hating it.
How long for?
All of it. I was sort of simultaneously drawn in and hating it at the same time. Yep. I was like, if this whole film is going to be this fraught, I'm going to really struggle by about halfway through. The second half's going to suck. I wasn't looking forward to it. I was getting to a point where I was like, this has stopped being fun.
Yeah.
And then the second act started, and I instantly loved it because I was like, oh my God, I see what you're doing. This is clever. I'm really enjoying this. I got to admit that I did have a couple moments of doubt in that second part of the film, that second chapter, where I thought it was getting too meta and it was going to be, it could all fall in on itself, but it delivers. The film delivers. Overall, I really liked it.
Yes, I thought it was fantastic, I have to say. I think it's the whole festival's been great so far. Yeah. It's in my top 3 so far.
I totally agree.
Certainly.
I'd put it, it's vying for the top position for me. I really enjoyed it, particularly that second chapter. Like, I was laughing and just loving the whole film set thing. And I normally don't go for that because normally it feels too self-indulgent, but it was great.
I made a note to specifically ask you about that, but we'll come to that perhaps.
Yeah.
Just on the start, I had the exact experience that you did, although I think the timeline was a bit different. So the initial scene when the two of them first meet and they're all that awkward flirting behavior on the walk to meet the girlfriend, I had exactly the same feeling that I did watching Rose Plays Julie. Remember when I was feeling really just angry at it for the use of the obvious use of flashback? Yes. And then it wasn't a flashback?
Yes.
It was the same here. I was thinking, no, I'm not digging this. But then I think it was when there was a clue earlier on at that stage that there was a repetition. And at that point I said, they're messing with us.
Yeah, okay.
And really these lines are playing like awkward dialogue, because it is awkward dialogue, because she's sitting at her desk writing this.
I didn't pick that up. I didn't pick any of that up until the big reveal of the second chapter. Like I didn't pick up that at all. So that's cool that you did.
I think that makes it a better, that's interesting. I would have thought that would make it a better experience for you watching it, not picking that up. And
yeah.
But for me, I don't know. I quite enjoyed the fact that I thought I knew what was going on, but then it still threw me several times after that as to what really they're trying to do.
I think you give the filmmaker more benefit of the doubt than I do, maybe, because there's a few times here where you've started, because I think what you're doing is you're thinking ahead, which is probably what any good audience should do. Like, but where is this film taking me? What is the filmmaker trying to say to me right now? Oh, maybe she's writing these lines that are happening right now. See, none of that occurred to me. I was just in the story going, well, this is a bit crap. Like, who speaks like this, really? Who's ever been different? Yeah, I know. I was like, who's ever been to a dinner party like this where, this is bizarre. Like, no one behaves this way. And so I was kind of hating on it and thinking, just not giving the filmmaker any benefit.
I think it's sometimes just lucky if you stumble on the right interpretation early, because then by then I was loving the fact that I at least thought they were lines that they were speaking, and the writer had purposely done everything to make the couple's conversation difficult. Like, whenever they could disagree, they would disagree, and if you think that's played straight, that I can understand that would be a bit annoying.
I wish I could rewatch it with your perspective now. Although I did, because of the fact that I was so drawn into it and not enjoying the way it was done, I think I really enjoyed the tone. So I don't know. Hard to say what's better.
Weren't there were some really good little twists though. Can you remember any moments in the film that you just where you kind of just jolted you?
Yeah, well, there were so many. I'm just trying to think of the one. I think I didn't love a lot that happened before the second kind of part of it. So I don't know if there were many twists in there that really grabbed my attention.
Well, maybe we should.
It all felt a little obvious to me, the first part of it. I think that's probably why.
Yeah.
What
maybe we should leave the second part to the second part, perhaps.
Yeah.
Not talk about that yet.
Yeah. But... Okay. Let's leave it. You're right, because the second part is almost its own film, and it's fun. Okay. Well,
I just liked there weren't really twists, but some key moments, like when he makes the decision to jump in the water, and I just thought, okay, that's, as far as a plot moment, that's big. Like, he can still back out of this. Up until he's gone in the water, he's just given her a towel. But once he's all wet in there, he's made the decision.
Absolutely. You know what's going on, right?
Yeah. And not long after, when she... We're giving spoilers here. I think I think we have to. Let's just assume that people are either okay with that, or they've just seen Black Bear. Yeah. When she catches them in the act, I don't think we see that scene all that much, do we? Like,
no,
we don't
not really.
see people actually get caught.
No, you're right. I guess I can think of some, but not too often, and not after. I guess what's interesting about this is that so you've got these three couples, and it's these three people. It's really hard to sort of give them names and people to even know what we're talking about. But I'm just going to say there's a man, there's a blonde woman, and a brunette woman. Okay, and in story one, the blonde woman and the man are a couple. and they've got a baby on the way. And the brunette woman is the sort of interloper that's come in and sets the whole thing off, right? And after you think that they've gone through this whole arc of, you know what, we're flirting with each other, but I love you, baby, nothing's going to happen. And then of course she falls asleep and he goes off and he's just a dirty dog, right? And he's straight in the water with the other lady, and the two of them are at it. The great twist, I think, for me there was, yes, the catching them doing it, but also that she does just sort of smash them on the head with something straight away. And how horrified the brunette woman looks, that she's been playing with them. She's been sort of playing them against each other and loving every second of it. But now that she's been caught, she looks legitimately horrified. And I didn't actually want to cause this thing to happen. And it's not just that she's been caught; it's that also the blonde woman who's pregnant gets injured in the process, and they have to rush off to hospital, right? So the whole thing, like her little games, just suddenly became too real, and you get a real sense of that.
Well, a lot of that is the Aubrey Plaza effect, because she is so.
Yeah.
In this film, for starters, she is so hard to read, and the other woman who. What's her name? She's wonderful as well. Gadon.
Sarah Gadon. She's awesome as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen her in other things and she's been just brilliant. And she was here. But yeah, Aubrey Plaza, when she's lying to their faces, says she's not lying, and then reveals herself later to be lying.
Yeah.
So you just can't trust a thing she says. And
she's got a face for it too, doesn't she? She just looks like she's up to no good from the start.
That's right. And I heard her in the Q&A after the film.
Yeah.
I think it was in that. Or maybe it was in the intro that she did. She did a 1-minute intro when she basically reveals herself to like that sort of stuff, like to have no distinction between comedy or drama and just... I think she gets off on the ambiguity herself, and then the character is doing the same thing, and then it's Aubrey Plaza playing Aubrey Plaza playing Aubrey Plaza, sort of.
I got a real sense of that she I think all three of them actually now it's interesting because the two women they play parts that are very similar in both chapters of this, but have some key differences. And those differences, and I think they were talking about this in the Q&A, the subtlety of those differences is what made the role really, something special for them. But the guy, he plays two totally different characters in some way. He does. The subtleties are less obvious. There's a bigger gap, even though there are some similarities in what the characters both end up doing. So I found that really interesting to watch.
Yeah. Well, in the second one, which I guess we'll get to, it sounds like that was the part that you liked a lot better. The style is so different, and it plays for laughs quite a lot. I don't think that was even the intention to be fully comedic, but it was bloody funny in several
I was
spots.
laughing a lot. Yeah. I wasn't expecting that. I mean, the comedy beats are in there. They seem purposeful, but I don't know if they thought, I don't know how intentional that was, but it was clever either way. Whether or not it was an intentional choice or not, it turned out to be clever. So yeah, it's great. Well, should we get into the second part, or have you got more to say about part one? We can always circle back.
I think we've started on part two. Let's keep going because I want to get back to what you alluded to before, and just as a filmmaker yourself, watching all the film references and it being so meta about the nature of making films. Yeah. I can imagine that sort of thing would normally crap you up the wall, but I really wanted to know how you engage with this, because I thought it was really cool and pretty authentic.
Yes. Whenever somebody talks about writing a film about filmmaking, I roll my eyes instantly, and I think a lot of people do, because it's just sounds straight away like a shit idea, right? But this one took me by surprise. I think there was about 2 minutes where I was rolling my eyes. I was like, oh God, now what's this film doing to me, right? We've just gone through the whole melodrama, and now we're going to talk about the behind the scenes of the melodrama. That sounds terrible. But then it starts, and you know, I don't know. It starts off really cleverly with the scene that you see at the beginning of the film and the end of the film. In the middle of this section, you're seeing the behind the scenes of that shot, which is just Audrey's character sitting on a dock looking out over the water introspectively, and it's kind of a very indie annoying shot in itself. So that was fun that they used that as the bookend plus the way to start the behind the scenes. Great idea. And then, you know, the actress doesn't want more than one take because she feels like she nailed it, and the director goes off at her, when you realize that it's the same guy, that it's Gabe, who was the sort of kind of struggling musician, is now this sort of arrogant director in part 2. I just bought into it straight away. I said, this is great. It's going to be good. This is going to be really good.
And the husband.
And he's the husband. It's quite hard to describe this film, I guess, because there's a lot of ins and outs. But yes, Gabe, the man, becomes the husband of the brunette in part 2. They're a creative couple, and the blonde woman is the other actress, and there's still the love triangle.
And how manipulative just the plot idea of him, you know, ganging up with the other woman to pretend they're having an affair in order to get the performance out of his wife, when you also know the layer on top of that is that they probably are at least wanting to have an affair. Like it's a fiction, sort of truth made up to be fiction.
Yeah,
about a million times over.
It's evil and messed up and kind of genius at the same time. The arrogance of his character, I hated him and I loved him at the same time.
Yeah.
It's just because, you know...
And you know him too, don't you?
And totally know him. I know, absolutely.
Several of them.
Yes, I know these people. I've met them. And they do this stuff to other people, and they think it's all for the art or for the whatever, the cause, and everyone suffers around them, and they glide on through. I know exactly these people. Yeah, so I was hating on him but loving it all at the same time.
Yeah.
It was very clever. And then all the characters, all the bit parts around him, like those are all people that you know from everything, from every job you've ever been in, but particularly on film sets. They're these sort of stereotypical characters. And again, normally I wouldn't be a fan of this idea. But it's done so well, and the comedy, I think, is what elevates it. I think the comedy lets them get away with it. There's this great moment. So they've had that initial kind of fight, and you've discovered who the players are, and then the next scene is they're trying to get ready for the next part of the film that they're shooting, and there's this whole costume wardrobe drama going on, and trying to get coffee for one of the actresses, and the coffee's too hot, and everybody's getting their cups of coffee, and just one after the other running into the lead actress. She has to get a new costume change. Someone else runs into her. She has to change her costume again. Somebody else runs into a screen door, and the coffee goes everywhere. So and like, that sounds silly, but it plays so well. Yeah, it's really fun.
Hey, I thought at one point he was like doing the same job on her as he was on his wife, trying to annoy her to get her in the mood. That didn't pay off, I don't think, but
wow,
I thought he was going there.
I love that. I love that idea, but I don't think. Yeah,
no,
it's great.
He wasn't.
Yeah,
there were little bits like just things like when Gabe is, just for a split second, his monitor's not working, and he's sort of tapping his monitor and trying to plug it in.
Dude,
that just gave me a chuckle.
I know exactly that feeling.
And the one of the whatever her role was, AD or script person or whatever, stoned off her head.
Can't find the lines.
Yeah. And you're really in her world. You're imagining you're there and just
horrifying.
And you're flipping through the pages, and you're not even looking. You're just flipping.
Yeah. I know. These people are, and just all the sort of like on-set kind of jabs at each other, and you can see little groups like, you know, the makeup artist and the soundy of kind of their friends, and they hate this person over there, and you get all the politics. Like, it's just it felt so real. It was done so well.
But isn't it odd and cool that second act is, you know, a meta take on the first?
Yeah.
And really, it's also just mirrored by the filmmaking process of that film.
Yeah.
Because they had crew that ended up being cast apparently, and all this sort of crazy stuff. Yeah. So and they talk about the shoot. This was in the Q&A.
I didn't have time to watch all of the Q&A, so I missed a chunk of it. Crazy.
They talk about the shoot as if what we saw was the shoot, almost. Like, they just say it was like a weird dream, and they only remember it hazily, and
that would be. I think I need more separation in my life than that. That's crazy to make a film that gets that meta. Wow. Well, look, I haven't seen a film like it before. I was trying to think of, you know, what this film reminds me of, which maybe we'll get into that, and you might have some ideas. But I was struggling. It's an unusual one, and I can see why they've put it as a spotlight film in the middle of the festival, because it stands out for sure. Yeah, definitely one that I won't forget for a long time. Yeah,
I agree. It's going to be one of those indie darlings, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had a couple of reminds me. Should we go?
I reckon. Those? Well, one last thing before we do, let's talk about the ending. Do you want to talk about the ending?
Well, and which one?
Well, yeah, exactly. But let's talk about the end. So I talked about book ending with the same scene. So where to even start? But you know, as you said, you picked up quite early on in the first chapter of this that, you know, she was Audrey, the brunette director in the first part, who's then the sort of the lead actress in the second part, was maybe the one writing the whole story. Like, you had that feeling. Yeah. Well, the film ends with a scene that gives you the impression that actually this whole thing might have taken place inside of her head, and is just her jotting down ideas for how this film might come about. And whether or not she actually did something like this in the past, and then that's come forward into the script that she's then writing and then stars in later in the same cabin almost, or someplace like it. Who knows? There's so many ways to read it. What was your take on it?
Well, I think just that. I just thought that these are two versions of the script that she's trying to write, and neither are the real thing. And it's just her exploring. I assume that she's got this lived experience in her somewhere, and that she's just making several attempts to make it into art.
So do you think that she's in the house by herself, or are the couple, Gabe and Blair, Gabe and Blair, are they actually in the house with her while she's writing this? Is any of it based on them? Or, you know, where are we? And maybe even the filmmakers don't know the answer to this. I mean, sometimes I get the sense that they've just gone,
I'm with that opinion. I think broadly she's trying to write, and these are a couple of attempts.
Sure.
And if I had to get into the filmmaker's head, I would suggest that she probably is in a cabin with a couple of people, and she's using their likeness in her imagination.
Yeah, and these are people
fantasizing.
We haven't seen, right? They're off somewhere in the background, but they're basically probably less good looking versions of the two people that we've actually seen in the film.
Probably.
I like it. And you know what's clever about that is that sometimes when you're working out a story, you might go, you know, oh, the film opens, it's a love triangle, dramatic. Oh, wait a second, that's a bit shit. maybe it's behind the scenes, maybe where the film crew actually, there's some stuff. No, that's a bit shit too. So, you know what I mean? Like maybe these are the first two variations of what will end up being some other script.
Yeah. No, I think that you've hit the nail on the head. I think that's that was my take completely.
That's cool. I kind of dig that. I kind of like that you can read it a whole bunch of different ways if you want to as well.
Yeah. And it's those ways of reading it that reminded me of things like adaptation.
Oh, yeah.
Of the process of writing and revising and that sort of stuff. I don't remember it that well, but I'm pretty sure that was the basic gist.
Absolutely. And it's been a while for me too, but Nick Cage plays two characters in that too. Are they brothers? I can't remember. It's been a long time.
Look, I wouldn't want to give a synopsis of it,
okay,
to be honest, but I know the feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, good.
And another one is The French Lieutenant's Woman, which is a novel made into a film, but the novel is one of those meta ones it has several endings of the film, just experimenting with different endings, and the author intrudes into it, which kind of, Larry kind of does in this, because I think there might have been similarities between him and the director.
Which is creepy. So, what was the name of the book again?
The French Lieutenant's Woman by
okay.
John Fowles.
Good?
Yeah.
Is it a recommendation in its own right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Cool.
It's great. Like, it's not, you wouldn't read it and say, oh, yeah, that reminds me of this film. But it's just got that postmodern, playing with form.
Yeah,
type
absolutely.
Thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wrote down heaps of things that reminded me of. So there's two.
There you go. I can't think of anything. I'm just I think I'm so enamored by what this film has done that it's just, it's its own thing for the moment.
Yeah.
Maybe tomorrow some ideas will pop into my head.
Yeah, well, that's the beauty of it. I think anything that it reminds you of, other films that, again, play with form.
Yeah.
And are more about perhaps what the author's trying to say, how the author's getting tricksy on you. Not the author, sorry, the filmmaker.
Yeah.
So Mulholland Drive was the other one, and probably the main one for me.
That's cool. Yeah, I like that. That's cool. That makes sense.
Yeah. So what else? The performances in general, you just digged all three of the mains?
I thought all three of them were great. And I think that it comes down to casting, because I know for a fact, having seen Christopher Abbott in a couple films now, that he's just a great actor, right? I can see that.
He is.
I wasn't as familiar with Aubrey Plaza and Sarah Gadon, but I don't think that matters, because I can see they're both great as well. And I also think that they're both good casting choices. Like, as we were saying, Aubrey's kind of, she's got a look, right? That sort of...
She's crazy.
She looks crazy. She looks crazy, and she comes off great as a crazy person.
Does. It's wonderful.
Sarah she looks kind of prim. I don't know. There's something, she's got that look about her, right? And the characters that she plays are both sort of that little naive, and it works perfectly. So great casting and also great performances.
Yeah, agree. Well, I don't know. Do we have anything more on this one? I just absolutely loved it.
I loved it too, and the title Black Bear is interesting. The black bear plays a part as a sort of thread, but it doesn't actually really impact on the story much at all, aside from just being a theme. It feels maybe the theme is, I don't know, like an outside force coming in, and disturbing the status quo. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'm reading into it too much.
I think I've got a take on it that holds up. We'll see. I'll work it through. I took the black bear as being representative of the sort of partially repressed memories and pain that both of these parts 1 and 2 draw on. So in the first one, it ends when she goes, crashing into the bear, so crashing into reality. And in the second one, she's in the scene, then looks around, and there is reality, the black bear, the pain of the memories,
Wow.
looking at her again.
Deep. Doc, that is deep. I wouldn't have thought of it that way. That's cool. No, and it works. That
Well, you've
works.
got the idea of, black dogs. I think that's a
depression.
symbol for depression, yeah?
Yeah.
And I don't know if black bear is officially a symbol of anything, but
Incredible. And they both seem to be tied somehow to the Audrey character.
oh, yeah.
So it's like this is her in both stories. This is her sort of thing, her reality or her depression or her past following her around.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And she's just trying to deal with it. And in that way, Allow Me One More reminds me of.
Yeah, go for it.
And that is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Oh.
In as much as, if you take that reading that I just said, it's kind of like trying to escape from your memories. Like I know she's sort of reliving them fictionally, but they're always there. It's the black bear in the background.
Yeah, you're on fire tonight, Doc. That's awesome. Yeah.
So for my next lecture, I will. I'll be covering
Professor Dr. Kim Logan, take us away.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Probably nothing to do with what it actually means, I'd suggest.
No, I like it. I like the interpretation. It makes sense to me too. And she calls him Bear so Audrey's character calls the gay character Bear as a nickname. I was wondering what that meant, what that was getting at. And maybe you're right. Maybe it's something from her past. Maybe it's the memory of sort of who they used to be. It's interesting because there's a little bit of that in there. She says she wants to go back to what it was like before being famous, basically.
Yeah. Like there's a lot of easy, if we're to be critical for a second, sometimes it can be pretty easy to throw these concepts out there and just let wankers like me make up all this meaning about it.
We've talked about that before, right? Because we've seen it.
Because there's certain types of people who just love thinking they know what things mean and arguing about it on the internet.
And they can make a YouTube series about the hidden meaning behind Black Bear.
That sort of crap. But for the person that produces it, they don't really have to do anything at all other than make it mysterious.
True.
Mulholland Drive style.
Which is, completely mysterious, and maybe none of it makes sense because Lynch is crazy. But in his best kind of way.
He just dreamt it like Larry did. He just dreamt it up, or like John Lennon when he wrote I Am the Walrus and other such things. Everyone's trying to decode it, and he's just having a laugh.
Yeah. He just got high and wrote it down.
That's right.
Yeah. Oh, I love it, man. Well, look, I think this was probably the most enjoyable of the films that we've seen so far for MIFF. I've liked other films, but this film was enjoyable. This was just fun to watch.
Yeah. On that, it wins hands down. I agree.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Black Bear.
What's next? I don't even know what's next. We probably should discuss that off mic.
Off mic. Next on the list.
It'll be something from MIFF.
It'll be from MIFF. We've still got 4? Have we got 4 films? No, we got 3 left. We got 3 films left to go till we're done with our little run. Oh, what to do next? So many choices. Yeah. And also there's a bunch of shorts that we've been seeing. Well, I don't know if you've seen any yet. I've seen a bunch.
No, I haven't, but I'll catch up to you. And
cool.
We might
so maybe
throw those in the mix.
Maybe that's in the mix as well. Hey, it's cool. I'm enjoying it.
I'm absolutely loving it so far. There hasn't been a bad one.
No.
Some are better than others. Some absolute killers so far, but not a real stinker.
Yeah. Couple standouts for me, for sure. Yeah. And actually, I think their spotlight films, they've kind of nailed it, like they've picked the films that are going to stick with people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, interesting. All right, well, next episode.
We'll see you next time.
See you in a couple days. That's it. Cheers, Doc.
Au revoir.
Have a good one.